Hi guys, it's Ollie here. Have you ever looked at an ETF name and wondered what the hell does half of those abbreviations even mean? No? Just me? Well, there is a reason why this channel is called Get Geek Finance. So in this video, I'm going to explain what all of these abbreviations mean in an ETF name. Now, before we get stuck in, I must be clear, I am not a financial advisor and none of the information in this video is intended to be financial advice, and if you want financial advice, you should seek a licensed professional. In addition to this, please note this is a rough guide to ETF name abbreviations, and technically an ETF provider can put whatever they want in an ETF name and it could represent something completely different to what I say here. So I recommend you always read the prospectus of the ETFs or funds you're considering investing in to confirm it is as you expect. So please make sure you do your own research before making any investment, because your capital is at risk, and at the end of the day, I am just a guy on YouTube and information here could be wrong or change at any point. So now that's out of the way, if you're new here, then my name's Ollie, and on this channel we talk about all things related to personal finance and investing. So if you enjoy this video, then I'd really appreciate an early thumbs up, as it really helps with the YouTube algorithm so that my content can reach more people. Also, please subscribe and press the bell icon to be notified of the latest videos as I upload new content every week. So no matter what broker you use, you may have noticed some ETFs have rather long and complicated names. A really good example of this is the UBS ETF (LU) Bloomberg MSCI US Liquid Corporates Sustainable UCITS ETF (hedge to GBP) a DIS, which is just ridiculous. While this name might seem rather cryptic, once you understand how to read ETF names, you'll be able to narrow down your ETF searches a lot more quickly. So an ETF name normally consists of at least 3, but usually more components. And the basic structure quite often looks like the following. So you may have a supplier, then an index, then some regulatory information, some share class info, and then any additional details. But bear in mind, the keywords may occur in different orders or individual components may be missed out, so it does take a bit of knowing of what to spot. So if we go through the 5 parts you may see on an ETF name, the first part of an ETF name is generally the provider or who issued the ETF. So some names you may have heard of are iShares, Vanguard, ARK, ProShares, Invesco, just to name a few. I'm not going to list them all here because according to this ETFDB page, there is over 200 issuers, and seeing as I lost half the viewers at the intro, I don't want to lose the other half now. But I'll put a link to this page in the description below if you're interested and want to look at it later. ETF providers are often subsidiaries of large banks or asset managers. For example, iShares is part of BlackRock, which is the world's largest asset manager, while Xtrackers is the ETF brand of Deutsche Bank. The provider's name may also be tagged with a sub-brand such as Core or Prime. This shows that the ETF is part of a subgroup in the provider's product range. Terms like Core are sometimes worth looking out for because these products may be cost effective, but you would have to check each one for yourself. So I recommend investigating the prospectus when it comes to these. The second component of an ETF name is generally the index that the ETF tracks. For example, the iShares Core S&P 500 ETF. In this example, we can see this ETF tracks the S&P 500. If you don't know what an index is, then indexes are made to quickly measure a stock market's performance. An index is based on a representative sample of the stock market. So the S&P 500 shows the stock performance of 500 large companies listed on stock exchanges in the US. It's not always the largest though. For example, Tesla wasn't added to the S&P 500 straight away, even though it was in the top 500 by market cap. The vendors that create the index have characteristics that define whether a company can be added. Examples of index vendors are MSCI, FTSE or FTSE, and S&P, and they provide independent verification of the indexes and then license them to the ETF providers. Another example of an index you may have heard of is the FTSE 100, which is 100 companies with the highest market capitalization listed on the London Stock Exchange. Often the index name reflects the country or region, as well as the number of stocks tracked. For example, the Euro Stoxx 50 tracks the 50 largest companies traded within the Eurozone, whereas the Stoxx Europe 600 is broader and also includes Switzerland and the UK. If an ETF tracks an index, then it will try its best to mirror the performance. So if the S&P 500 went up 5% today, you should also see a 5% increase in your S&P 500 ETF. This also means if a company drops out the top 500, this stock will drop out the index and will be replaced by another one. You may also see an index with a suffix such as NR, GR, TR or TRN, which tell you whether one is dealing with a performance index or a price index. A performance index includes capital changes and dividend distributions, which are TR, total return, and GR, gross return. Whereas NR, which stands for net return, and TNR, which stands for total net return, means that the net dividends and interest after deduction of withholding taxes are taken into account when calculating the index. So the third component of an ETF name is the regulatory information, which is important for consumer protection. You may see UCITS in an ETF name, such as in the iShares Core FTSE 100 UCITS ETF DIST. This means the ETF is subject to European regulations specifically designed to protect investors. For example, UCITS ETFs must meet certain standards such as not holding more than 20% of fund assets in any single security, which helps diversify the product. Also, in addition to this, the word ETF is also a regulatory classification. It clearly distinguishes ETFs from other exchange-traded products such as ETNs, which are exchange-traded notes, or ETCs, which are exchange-traded commodities. ETCs and ETNs are not UCITS compliant and are subject to additional risks that do not apply to ETFs. So the fourth component in some ETF names is that you may also get share class classifications, which are towards the end of the ETF name and will provide information on the share class. For example, Xtracker's S&P 500 UCITS ETF 1C, where 1C is the share class. ETFs sometimes issue several share classes. Share classes are variants of the fund that may differ in relation to fees, trading currencies, or income distribution methods. Unfortunately, each provider uses their own set of abbreviations, so there's no quick way for deciphering these, but the details can be found in the fund prospectus. You can also identify each specific variant by its ISIN code, which is a unique 12-digit alphanumeric code. For example, with these ISIN codes, you can check whether you are investing in the sterling or euro version of an ETF. And the final component of ETF names are additional bits of information that they just kind of put on the end. And there can be a number of these. So one bit of additional info you may see is how they treat income in the form of interest or dividends. And this denotes whether it's sent back to your account or reinvested back into the ETF. ETFs that pay out are known as distributing. So for example, you may see iShares Core FTSE 100 UCITS ETF DIST. These ETFs can also be abbreviated as D, DIS, or DIST. ETFs that reinvest are termed capitalizing or accumulating. For example, the iShares Nasdaq 100 UCITS ETF USD AC. These can be abbreviated as C or AC. Another bit of additional info you may see relates to currency. ETFs that invest in securities in a currency different to your local currency can carry foreign currency risk. If, for example, the ETF's name indicates it's hedged, then it should be protected against currency fluctuations by the use of forward contracts or options. For example, in the case of Xtracker's S&P 500 UCITS ETF 2C GBP hedged, a UK resident will earn the return of the US index because the hedge cancels out the effect of the pound's performance against the dollar. If a currency is in the name but without the term hedged, then this is usually a reference to the ETF's trading currency, and it's worth noting products are often offered in different currencies such as GBP, Euro, US dollar on the London Stock Exchange. Another additional bit of information you may see is the domicile. Some ETF providers like to highlight the fact that their ETF may be based in Ireland. So you may see the letters IE because an Irish domicile can offer a tax advantage for some investors. UBS ETF names are often a good example of this. Another bit of additional info you may see and should pay attention to are words such as short, 2x, double, or 3x. But again, there could be variations of this. Short ETFs normally reflect the performance of the index inversely. Therefore, these ETFs can be used to bet on falling prices. If you see short or ultra short in the name of a bond ETF, then this may mean it refers to the short maturity dates of the bonds held in the fund. So in this case, it's probably best to check the prospectus. 2x, double, and 3x, for example, these risky ETFs enable investors to multiply the movements of the indices by the multiplying factor, which you may think that double the performance is a great idea. But you have to consider this can also double or triple your losses. As a warning, you should be very careful with short and leveraged products. They are very high risk and specialized investments that should only be used by experienced investors who thoroughly understand them. So that's it. I hope you found this video helpful. ETF names often look confusing at first glance, but hopefully you'll soon get the hang of them. As mentioned at the start of this video, this is just some of the most common things to look out for, as you'll notice the same abbreviations popping up over and over. But the best tactic is to use the information in this video to build a shortlist, and then you should always review the fund prospectus before investing to confirm it is as you expect, and that the ETF matches your investment goals. Just because this is meant to be a rough guide, and all funds have a habit of being slightly different in their own way, so I always recommend reading the fine print. Anyway, if you got any value from this video, then please smash the like button. Let us know below if you invest in any ridiculously long named ETFs, and if so, what are they? If you've got any questions on this video, then please leave them in the comments below. Also, if you want to learn more about personal finance or investing, I have loads of videos on my channel, so I recommend you check them out. I also upload new content every week, so please subscribe and press the bell icon so that you don't miss out on any future updates. It's been Ollie from Get Geek Finance. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.